I'll first go and explain the scenario of the game. So we have this background with some clouds, and we have this our main sprite, which is the hero sprite, is on glider. So this main sprite is going to get through the hurdles, the pipes that you can see here, the first one, the second one, the third one. So it has to navigate through these pipes, and then it keeps flying. Then again, you have the lives. The score is presented to the top left corner of the screen, and the life is presented on the top right corner of the screen. So this indicates that there are 2 lives already lost and there's only 1 life left. So when the player goes and hits one of those obstacles, when the glider goes and hits one of the obstacles, the life is lost. When 3 lives are lost, the game is over. So this is the scenario, and it's named Sydney Glider. So the backdrop would be, there'll be this Sydney city moving across the screen, and that's the scenario. Okay, before I go any further, in order to get this game done in Python, we need extra modules. Those modules are one extra module that you require, for which you go and search up pygame underscore functions. So you go and type in Google pygame underscore functions, and the first link that you get is from the GitHub. When you get into that, you will have the package available for you. So this is the module that you're working. This is the module that you're looking for, pygame underscore functions .py, and you can go and download it. But once you download it, where should that go? You can go, say, once you download it, you get a zip file. So that zip file, when you go double click that zip file, you will get this pygame functions master. And when you double click, these are the files that are required. As you see, again, if I'll take you back to the GitHub page. So these are the same files that are mentioned are seen here in the folder. Now, once you have downloaded that, you need to have it into the main Python folder, which is, in my case, I got C colon. Under that you have Python 27. Under Python 27 this is my main Python source folder. That's where I went and placed it. Look at that. Those are the same folders as you remember, and that pygame functions. So this is what is required before you actually go and start designing your game or typing in your codes. So this is how you go and download the pygame functions, pygame underscore functions, and that's the py file, which is Python file, 19 kilobytes. This needs to be in the main Python folder to get started. All right, now we're all set to begin to go and actually design the game with pygame functions actually manually installed into your existing Python. So I'm going to go and draw your attention to the game that I showed you. Now I want to go through the game again. So the score to be displayed on the top left corner. So which means like we're going to display the text. And we're going to have some other text like labels displayed, like the ones that is shown here, which say Sydney Glider, or when the life is lost, or when the game is over, the text will be displayed here. So one thing is confirmed here, that we're going to display the text. And the text is going to be both static as well as dynamic. What is that? What do I mean by that? Static is, say for example, this core, that's going to remain static throughout the game, but that number is there for the score. It's going to keep changing based on the actions performed inside the game. So that will be a dynamic text, which is a text that is changing. Then you will have a main sprite, which is the hero sprite. Then again you will have another sprite, which is nothing but the obstacles. Then you will have the background in the back, which is going to be moving, and to create an animation like effect as though this sprite is flying forward. We will also add another feature to our main sprite, the gravity. So this keeps falling down. We use the keyboard actions to keep this sprite flying. So which means like when you keep pressing the up arrow key, the sprite would be moving up. So that's the game scenario. Now I will take you inside. So before we go and get started, we can't go straight into the programming. We also require the files or the sprites or the image files required to build the game. I have made my sprites. I'm going to take you into that folder. That's my Python game folder. So I would like to draw your attention to the first file, which says gbg, and I want you to look at the dimensions, which says 3392 width and 500 is the height. So I'm going to go double click and open that file, which is Adobe Fireworks. As you see, I will now increase the percentage for our clear view. That's my background. So it's a nice backdrop with a clear sky and it's a few clouds and also the sea. You got a nice sandy beach and you can see the city of Sydney. You can see the city of Sydney here as a backdrop, and you got the Opera House and also the Harbour Bridge, Luna Park, and it keeps moving. So it's going to move horizontally across the screen. So that's the animation. So once it reaches the end, it again restarts and again keeps moving. So that's the basic idea. So that's my background, and the dimensions of this is 3392 and the height is 500. So that's one of the files. That's my background file. The second one is my main sprite, which is my hero sprite, which is going to avoid those obstacles and fly through those obstacles. Should look at that. So I got this nicely designed, and so that's the glider. It's a hand glider, and I made this little pig here, which is going to be just to make it look fancy, and that would be my main sprite, and the size is like it's of 143 by height is 138. Pretty small image, and that's going to be my main sprite. Okay, now then again I got this. So I've shown you the game background, I've shown you the main sprite. I'm going to show you the obstacles. So these are the obstacles. Again, 3992 would be the width. You can have whatever the amount of width that you wanted, you can. So you just have to be mindful that when you're setting the width, when you go and manipulate it through the programming, you will have to remember those numbers. Okay, so here are my hurdles, or the obstacles. As you see, they're all designed and they are in place. So this is going to be moving across the screen as well. Okay, so I got my game background, I got my main sprite, and I got my obstacle. Then I will draw the attention to this image here. So pretty much This is exactly the same what I spoke before. But I also have here the live sprites. Okay, so to show the live, I have created live 3, 2, 1, 0, 4 sprites. Live 3 sprite, as you see, has got all the 3 lives visible. Something like this. Look at that. And live 2 will have 2 of the lives shown and 1 of the lives crossed out. And similarly, if you're looking, live 1 has got 2 of the lives crossed out and 1 life is available, and when the game is over, all the 3 lives are lost. So these are the only required resources for me to go and build this very simple game. So I will go and recap what I spoke to you so far. One is, I said you would be requiring, one is I explained you the game scenario. Second is I spoke about the GitHub page from where you can download the Pygame functions. Third is you go and place that files that you downloaded from the zip folder into your main Python folder, and that's a manual installation, and you're ready to go. And the fourth one is you prepare all the game resources that are required to build the game. So now we are ready to build the game. I'm now going to go into the actual game itself, game codes. So here I have this bunch of codes. I'm going to go through all of this in detail. All right. So I would like to draw your attention. This is from Pygame functions. So I would like to draw your attention to the first statement there, which says from Pygame_functions import star. That is the reason I said that we would be requiring the Pygame functions installed. If you have not installed Pygame functions correctly, and if you're going to write this statement there, Python would be throwing an error to you, saying that it cannot locate the Pygame_functions module. So that's the reason it's quite important that you have to download that particular module from the GitHub page and install it properly into your Python folder. Okay, now, second thing, I would like to draw your attention to these variables. Okay, first one is the speed of the game, and second thing is something called as OB speed, which is your obstacle speed. And the first speed refers to actually the background moving. Gravity is the gravity that you set to the main sprite. Now you have here x, and y coordinates. These x, and y coordinates refer to the x and y coordinates of the main sprite. Then we have this bx, ob1x, live, score, and there's something called as, again, ss. I would go and explain these sprites, I will go and explain these variables later during the program. But let's look at primarily, we are looking at the first variable, which is the speed set to 1, which means the background would be moving 1 step to the left throughout the game. Obstacles would be moving 2 steps in the game, and gravity is set to 1 step And apparently I have to just go look for this SS if I have actually used it or not. So some of the variables are just there that, yes, that is for the score. So I'm going to go and increase the score by 1. So I'm using it to increase the score. So apparently I'm going to increase it. Sometimes if I wanted to increase the score by a large number, I just have to go and modify that variable called as SS. Okay, so that's why I used it. So I did use that variable. Okay, so then I'm going to go and talk more about the variables as I said to you later, but these are the few variables that are required primarily. Now, look at the first comment that I have, second comment that I have put here. It says, this is for the screen size and the background. So now, to set the screen size, you use this command here, screen, and followed by size. And I'm setting the dimensions here. 1000 would be the width. I would now like to draw your attention to my gbg.png file. The dimension here is 3392 and 500. Then now, when we go back to the main program, the screen size is set to 1000 width and 500 height. The reason behind this is only the 1000 pixels of the screen background from the gbg.png file will be displayed. The rest would be extended beyond the screen size. There's a reason behind this, because during the game this background image would be moved to left, making the other part of the background visible. That is the reason the size of the image is far beyond, at least 3 times bigger than the actual screen size. So when using Pygame functions, you must understand one very important thing, that screen size, you set the screen size, you have used a variable called bg, and for that background you made a sprite called gamebackground.png. You have loaded, but it is not going to display. If you wanted that to be displayed, you have to say show sprite bg. That is when it is going to show it. And I would like to draw your attention to move sprite background, 0, 0, which is bg is again this file here, and that sprite is moved to 0, 0, 0 is the x, and its y dimension is to 0, which means the top left corner it'll be shown. I'm going to go and deactivate these codes, and I'm just going to simply run this program. If I run this program, I will go and close my triple quotes. I will run the program, push OK. Look at that. Only that portion of the game is displayed. Look at that. So, if you're looking at the background, the whole entire background is stretching to 3,392 pixels, but only 1,000 pixels can be seen in the game. But that background, we're going to be moving through the code. So what we have actually seen now is how you go and load a background. When you go and load a background image, how that is shown. So let's go back here. I'm going to go click escape here. I'll just close the program for now. Okay, so I'll remove those 3 quotes from there. I'll go back here and get rid of those 3 quotes here. Okay, so I got the background sorted. Then the next one is I wanted to go and load. I have set XX is 250, YY is 100. There's something called as BX that I'm using elsewhere. I'm going to talk about it later. Score is set to 0 again. And obstacle 1, X is set to 1000. Life is set to 3. I wanted to see if I've repeated any of those. No. So I'll talk about what is that XX and what is that YY later. But first of all, I'm going to say here, OB1 equal to make sprite obstacle 1 PNG, show sprite, which is again exactly the same, and move sprite OB1, which is your obstacle 1, to OB1X, which is equal to 1000. So the sprite loads at the end of the screen, because when the game loads, we don't want that sprite to load right in the middle. So that is being pushed to the end of the screen because the obstacles will start moving. The obstacles will begin from here and they start moving from there to the end. That is the reason it was set to 1000. So that's why obstacle 1x is set to, the x is set to 1000. Now, but the y, as you see, is 0 because it has to begin at the top left corner and then go all the way up to bottom. So the y is left 0, but the x is set to, obstacle 1x is set to 1000. And then it loads. When you said show sprite, that's when it's going to show up. Okay, so far good. Then we have something called as a live sprite, live3.png. Pay attention to that because that's going to change from 3, 2, 1, 0 eventually throughout the game. So we will say here show sprite lives and move sprite lives to 850, 0. So y is set to 0, which means top, at the top, but as you see here, I'll go back to that picture here. Y is set to 0 and X is set to 850. So all the way from, if you look at the screen size, it's 1000. Somewhere here is 850. That's where that sprite will be shown. So quite simple to understand and easy to understand. So that's your X for the sprite. And that will be 0. I haven't used a variable here because that's going to be standard. That's where I wanted it to be shown. But my obstacle, I used a variable because my obstacle is not going to stay there in the corner. My obstacle is not just going to sit down there, but instead it would be moving. In order to make it move, I wanted a variable for that, and that variable is OB1X. So far, I will say here, I will comment this out here. This code is to load the obstacle sprite. This code is to load the, I would say load and show, load and show the live sprite. Fantastic. Now, so far so good. Now there's one more thing. So if you have understood this and this codes and this codes, you will easily understand what this code is. And say here, this code is to load and show the main sprite, main hero sprite. So we're going to say here hero equal to make sprite hero.png, so it refers to that file. Remember one very important thing is in your Python folder, all of these images must be contained in the same folder of your main project file, which is Sydney Glider here. So that's the file that I have opened, so only then it's going to go and load it. So it now loaded the hero.png, and we have set shows the sprite and move sprite hero to 250 and 100. I could say that XX and YY. There's a very important use of this XX and YY variable. Either I can go and use it here, or I'll just simply go and use it here. I'll say I'll run this. Let me see if that's going to work. That works like a charm. So here we go. I've loaded the main game for us to have a look at. Okay, so far we've seen how those three of those sprites are loaded. So we looked at the codes to load the obstacle, live, the main hero, and the background. Now we wanted to display text. In order to do that, so what text needs to be displayed? There are two different texts that needs to be displayed. One is the score text, another is the message that shows up here in the middle of the screen. So when it displays the score, let's go back to our main code. I created another variable called as sc score, and I use the function called make label, and I open the quotes, and this is where I put score in brackets. This is the static text that I was referring to. This will a static text is something which is not going to change at all, but the dynamic text, which is your score variable, will be shown here. So that will be converted into a string and it will be displayed next to the label. So let's go here. It's going to say score, which is static. Next to that will be the score in the numbers, which is the dynamic, and it's coming from the variable score. Let's go back here to the codes. But there are certain other arguments here. So there's 140 here, there's a 40 number here, then again there's a 10, there's another 40, and there's another parameter which is blue, and this is Arial. I'm going to go explain all of those now. The first 40 refers to the font size. So the first 40 refers to the font size. The next number value refers to the x-axis, at what distance the text will be displayed on x-axis, and this value here is the y-axis, so it will be displayed 10 pixels to the right, 40 pixels to the down. Then again, the color of the text is set to blue, and the font type that is chosen is Arial. You can go with Times New Roman or any other font you wanted to. Calibri, yeah. So, but these are the parameters. So you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters that are required for making the label. 1 is the text to be displayed. 2 is the size of the text. 3 is the x position. And 4 is the y coordinate. And 5 is the color of the text. 6 is the type of the font. Similar to when you made the object, when you made the sprite, it is not going to automatically show you. Similarly, when you make the text, it's not going to be automatically displayed, but you need to go and show the label. So you got to say show label SC, which is your score. I'm going to go and comment this here. This code, is to create a label with both static and dynamic text and display. Okay, so that's about how you go about making the label. So far we have covered the sprite, main sprite, background, the live sprite, obstacles, and the score. Now we're nearly there to the actual programming. Now I have defined something called as, there are two functions that we will be using or creating in this game. One is called as the scoring, which I'm not going to talk at this stage, about at this stage. Another is sensing. I will not be talking about this as well. I will straight away go down to this bunch of actual logic here. While true. I'm not going to elaborate on that. While true is a infinite continuous loop, and it is desired that you understand basic programming features such as the control statements, if conditions, loops, and forever, this while true loop, all of this. So now I'm entering into actual game. As soon as the game begins, the score starts increasing. So the score value, which is initially set to 0, remember we set the score to 0, is going to change by 1. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like it goes really very fast. So just to make the game look thrilling, so that's how the score variable changes. Second thing, we made a label for score here. Remember, this code is to create the label with both static and dynamic text to display. Yeah, to display the score. Okay. Here I'll say this code is to create a message to be displayed during the game. I want to draw your attention that I haven't said show label message here. I'll talk about it later. But anyways, we're gonna go down here. So I said change label score plus string of score. See, look at I would like to draw your attention to change label. So you created the label here, you made the label here, and it is going to just show 0 score as 0 because you set it to 0. But this SS would be changing like forever within the game. So because where is it changing? Now this is going to be added to the score. So the score value is going to keep on changing with the SS, which means like that changing score needs to be shown. So you say show label SC. Now this is the first time we added this, we used this code here, YY plus equal to gravity. The Y value is going to increase. What was the Y value initially? Y value was set to 100, which means halfway through the screen this sprite would be sitting, and its Y value is going to increase. So it's going to be 100, 101, 100, 203. It's going to keep on increasing, which means your main sprite is going to fall off. How can you say it's a main sprite which is going to fall off? Because you said main sprite, move sprite. I said hero. This is where your XX and YY variables are used. So which means Y, you're only changing the Y, we're not changing the X, which means the hero sprite is not moving horizontally, it's only moving vertically, and here as you added the gravity, it's going to fall off. Here comes the main logic. If we didn't wanted that sprite to fall off, if we wanted the sprite to be moving up, you press the up arrow key. That's where you use here. If key pressed within the quotes up arrow key, YY minus equal to 10, which means whatever the existing Y position will be negative and it's going to move up. The Y is going to be negative. Negative Y is moving up, positive Y is moving down. So I'll say move sprite hero XX, which is never going to change. The X is never going to change, but the Y is changing here. When I press up arrow key, the Y decreases. When I press the down arrow key, it increases. And already there's a gravity here, which is continuously falling down. So I have to keep on pressing. That's why I said 1 here, but I said 10 here. Right? So when you go press the up arrow key, it pushes like decent size. It pushes it decently to about 10 pixels up because of the fact that gravity is continuously added to it. That's why. So now we have covered this section of the code. So first thing is it displays the score. Second thing is gravity is added to it, and the sprite is sprite is moved according to the gravity. And now you're controlling the sprite by moving it up and down. So now let's look at the life. Okay. Life is greater than 0, which means like you are continuing to play. The game is not yet over. Say for example, life is set to 3 here. I set the life to 3. See, the life is set to 3. When the life is set to 3, it's obviously going to be greater than 0. Now comes a very interesting part. Obstacle 1x. What was the obstacle 1x position at the beginning of the game? It was somewhere here. It was in 1000. I will go back to those codes here. We set the obstacle 1x to 1000. obstacle 1x was set to 1000. So that needs to be decreasing by 2, which is here. Obstacle speed is 2. That obstacle speed is continuously changed, minus equal to OB speed. So which means the obstacle will be shown here at the end, then moves 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 2 pixels, and it keeps on moving to the left continuously, creating an impression as though this pig is moving forward, but actually we are trying to create an illusion as though this pig is moving forward. Instead, we are actually moving the background to the left. We are moving the obstacle to left. We are moving the background at the speed of 1. We are moving the obstacle at the speed of 2. And we have added the gravity for the pig to keep on falling down, and we have given control to the arrow keys, the up and down arrow key. When you press the up arrow key, the pig moves 10 pixels up, but when you use the down arrow key, it moves only 1 step down. However, the factor of gravity brings down your sprite continuously. So let's now go back here. So I would like to draw your attention here. So, which means the obstacle's moving continuously. Now comes another interesting thing. We are looking at the background. That BX there that we have created in the past, where I set to 0, that BX actually is the background for background X. That's the background X. So we have to, I'm going to go show that to you now. Yep, background X need to be moving 1 step. So I've set it to 1. Now it's actually set to 0. Let's go and look at it. Bx minus equal to speed. So it's going to become negative. Bx equals to Bx minus 1. If Bx greater than, yep, that's right. That's quite right. Bx is set to 0 because your background should be shown here. So that's 0. So the background starts from here, which is 0. And when you want the background to be moving, you're going to be changing its X, and it becomes negative 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and it keeps on going. So how far it can go? I set it can go up to negative 2220. Why? Because, see, that is 0 and keeps on moving, and the whole entire game is displayed only in this part here. Oops. I'll just go say none. Look at that. The game is shown only up to that part there. It's going to be shown only that part there. So your background keeps moving to the left. Okay. So that's the reason it can keep moving up to 2200. So when whole of that part needs to be going through this, so the beginning part of your background would have gone to negative 2290 something, because the whole entire width is 3390. So but when the end of this would reach here, that's when your background would have moved to negative 2290. Immediately it should start from the beginning. That's the reason why I left this portion with no objects and this portions with no objects. So let's go back here. Then continuously the background is moving. But if the background becomes less than 2200, background X becomes 0, which means like if this whole entire background is going to keep on moving and it reached this point, and again it starts from the beginning. So this will be continuously looping, moving from right to left. So when this part reaches to the end, it again restarts. That's the idea. Similarly, for the obstacle, I set it to 3500. This is 2200, but this is 3500 for the reason the obstacle starts from the background starts at the leftmost corner of your game, but the obstacle starts rightmost corner of the game, and the distance of the length of the obstacle is about 3000. So here we go. So far we got the life. If life is greater than 0, this should happen, which means the game is running. We at this part here, I'll say here, we have the background moving to left end loop here, and in this case we have the obstacle moving to left and loop. Now this is the heart of the program. Now if touching, what is touching what? If hero sprite, which is your main hero, is touching obstacle 1, so this is what happens. If this hero is touching this obstacle or this obstacle, the whole entire obstacle, anywhere, if he's gonna touch, what happens? If touching obstacle 1, obstacle 1x equals to 1000. So what we do is we will throw the whole entire obstacle here to restart fresh for the second life, for the next life. So it starts from here, the obstacle starts from here. That's what it says. Let's go back here. Move sprite ob1x 0. So move sprite obstacle 1 to there, so it moves there. Change life by 1, -1. So the life is set to, I'd like to draw your attention, life was set to 3, but as soon as it went and touched, the hero touched the obstacle, life is changed. You got 1 life lost here, and then it called a function called as sensed. So it goes to the function sensed, and what is there inside the sensed? It's a change label message. Remember how we created the message? That needs to be displayed right in the middle. So this is your message. Yeah, so it said change label message, life left, how many lives are left, with string of life. So if it was 3 minus 2 against the dynamic text, 3 minus 1 is 2. If 2 lives are there, and if the hero lost his life, it becomes 2 minus 1, 1 life left. When it becomes 0, it says life left equals to 0. Show label MSG. Speed is 0. For few seconds, the speed should be paused to 0. And the obstacle speed is set to 0. The gravity is set to 0. Obstacle 1x is set to 900. The obstacle 1x is set to 900, which is thrown away from here. Actually, that is not required. This stage, because I've already sent it away from here. Remember how I did that here, how I did that there? So I might not need that. So I'll get rid of that there. And this is what happens. Now remember how the life is changed here? Earlier it was 3. That's why this sprite was shown, since the life was 3. Now the life is only 2. So this sprite needs to be shown. So in order to do that, it says if life equal to 2, again, this is again making the sprite life 2 and showing that. If life is equal to 1, life 1 is shown here. Only 1 life will be shown. Life is equal to 1, only 1 life is shown. And when life is gonna be 0, life 0.png will be shown. So which will be only, like, all the lives are lost. Then again, within this function, it's calling another function called as scoring. So since the life is lost, it goes back to scoring. And let's see what happens in scoring. Scoring. Remember the message that you've shown here? It needs to be shown for a while, so you pause it for about 1000 milliseconds. Then the label is changed. Change label message. It only shows for a brief period. Then that message disappears because you put a simple space here, rather than having for the actual messages actually replaced with no text, blank text. Then again, the game's gonna start and the speed is changed. Speed goes back to 1, and obstacle speed goes back to 2. Gravity goes back to 1. It's not meant to be called as scoring, so I'm just going to go here. We'll call that actually reset and define. I'm going to call that as reset. Initially I got the scoring done there, so now I just called it reset. My game is reset from there, and then everything continues as usual. So let's say only 1 life was lost. And then again, the game continues, and the second life is lost, and the third life is lost. Life became 0. When life is greater than 0, you have your background moving, you have your obstacle moving, and you're going to check if they're going to be touching. What if life became 0, which means gravity should be 0? Change label, message, game over, escape to quit, show label, and set this SS to 0 because the score should not be increasing anymore. And the whole entire game goes in, stops. That's the very simple program. One is I've shown you how to use the variables, how to set the screen size, how to make the background sprite, how to make the other sprites for the game. Then I have shown you how to go and make the label. I've shown you how to change the made label. How do you go about changing the label? See, this is how you go and change the label. Okay. And I have shown you what happens when the key is pressed up or down. Then I have shown you the main logic of what happens, how the game continues when the life is greater than 0. Once the life becomes equal to 0, which is not greater than 0, whole game ends. That's simple. I'm going to go and run this now. Run and push OK. So the main game loads up. See the score, how SS variable is moving. That's my static text, that's my dynamic text. Now I'm going to press up arrow. So when I press the up arrow, see, it moves 10 pixels up and it's falling down gradually 1 pixel down. It did not touch the obstacle, and I'm bringing it down. So look at that. So it's falling down and there's gradual gravity. And as you see, the background is moving 1 pixel to left and my obstacle is moving 2 pixels to left, and my life sprites are shown to the right top corner. Now I'm going to deliberately touch here, and it said life left is 2. Remember how I changed the message, changed the text? So, and on the top right corner, you can actually see 2 lives are left. Then again, this sprite is moving. This sprite is moving down, and the obstacles are moving to left. I'm going to take this up, and I'm deliberately going to bump into my second obstacle. So you see the score is moving up continuously. You see the background actually restarted again from the beginning. So, and I lost my second life, and this is my third life, and I'm going to again bump into this. It's going to tell me life left is 0, game over, escape to quit. So there we go, a very simple game using Pygame functions module. You are able to go and create a simple game. So you can set the dimension here. I set the dimension to 1000 width, and I set it to 500 height. You can go and customize it to whatever the width and whatever the height you want it to create. I'm going to press escape, and I'm going to close the game now. So that is, I'll make this program available to you so you can use the files as well, and then go and start creating your own awesome game. Good luck.